It's
their
very
lives, their
valuable.
That's the
riches.
vitality. It's open.
I don't go to a lot of conferences, and usually when I go, I end up speaking.
Yeah. Equity in
Um,
a house, or you don't have rich parents who are gonna buy you a house.
Well, they gotta be very rich to buy you a house in Weston, you know, I mean,
Yeah, what is their?
they've gotta be Donald Trump rich. Maybe we can attract Donald Trump to
So very
build
much.
a hotel here or something, who knows?
Have that show.
Yeah. I just thought of
Hey,
it
Jim,
because
how are
of
you?
the announcement.
Oh, I know.
Doing well,
So
Susan, how are you?
Good, good.
Need doing better?
You know, it's kind of stuck in a place.
Uh-oh.
But thank you.
Plateaued? Sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some long-term continued.
Now, this was your meniscus, right?
Well, it was a bunch of things. It was meniscus, it was chondrotomy and all, some other ommies I can't pronounce.
I had a friend who went hiking, and she tore her meniscus, and she was like 4 miles from her car.
That's not
Oh,
good.
It was not good. And her son and husband basically carried her.
Oh, man.
Oh,
And so she had meniscus surgery, and her husband would call me and say, you know, this was like a week or so after, and she was told she needed to exercise. So he would call me up and he'd say, "You've got to come walk Susan." I felt like she was a dog or
Yeah,
something.
seriously.
Yeah. But I think the,
Oh, hey, Al.
the Brook School would be enriched by having diversity of age and
Get on here?
living in near proximity. You know, it could be like a preschool there
I
or
ran into
something.
Adrian at the supermarket where I always run into Adrian. I never see her unless we're, I rarely go to that
You
supermarket.
know, a sense that a lot of the residents
Present.
like that.
This came from a
Like
conference that Leslie and I went to,
There
and
was
it
something
has a
that was,
huge amount of information.
Family.
oh, okay.
So I snagged some at the end of the conference, and then I ended up copying some.
So I think it's for your
It's got all kinds of resources in
But
it.
clearly the town is
So having a sort of a dense housing cluster of families and.
Betsy, do we have copies of Jack Hines' suggested outline?
Do we have an agenda?
Yes, we do.
I
Sorry.
have copies of Jack's outline.
Oh, you do, wonderful. My printer
No, no,
is
that's all
gone,
right.
but now-
There's some more over there.
Yeah, I'd love to have a copy too.
Do you have copies? Or do you want me to make a copy?
I have, well, I don't have enough
This
copies,
is
but I
Jack's.
have,
Yeah.
Jack sent this around.
I grabbed one of those.
No.
Give me one and not four.
That's all.
Thanks.
All right.
Somebody said
We
you gotta
have-
write something up on the plan.
Yeah, that's
That-
right.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
remember that, but I didn't see
The
it.
next one?
It's a-
How are you?
Question time?
We have not even called the meeting to order.
Oh, good, good.
Seeing we have a quorum, I will call the meeting to order, and first order of business, I will ask for somebody to be the note taker, Leslie will not be here tonight. I apologize for that. Unforeseen
I'll
family
take that.
emergency. Thank you.
Well, these are just superb minutes. I have to tell you.
Like those?
There's only one thing that popped out at me, and that is that, I was looking at some of the initials, and not all of them are above, because Karen's name is not up.
Oh, it's on the top.
Yeah, so we should add counts on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So, you see Karen's initials, you say, oh, who's that? You look up above and
Ooh, I like it.
That's
right.
Okay, good. Anyway, if we could go in order, and have any public comment for this evening?
Yes,
Robin,
I've got a couple of questions.
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'd like to, I think I understand the difference between friendly and hostile, or unfriendly, is it? But is it that if someone is if a builder is doing a friendly 40B, it isn't 25 units on 5 acres, it's less dense? What is the difference, please?
If you want to try that?
No?
Sure, I think the difference is that with a friendly 40B, that the town goes into partnership essentially with the developer, and that, at least in theory, gives the town more leverage for negotiation. But in terms of the density standard, I think that at least what I've been able to figure out is that the developers who are proposing the 40B projects are actually using the town standard, typically, of density standard, and at least as it stands right now. And I think that's meant to be a maximum density standard, but of course that's the one that becomes the target. So that's where they've wound up. The friendliness or unfriendliness doesn't affect the density. You might be able to negotiate a lower density in exchange for something else in theory, but if it were friendly 40B, but it would depend on the project, I guess. That's my understanding.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else wants to.
Isn't it that, doesn't it just come down to a simple thing? One is done in conjunction with the town, under agreement of the town, and one is done almost in opposition to the town. And it's really, did they get town buy-in or not, right?
It's really, bottom line, that's about what it comes down to. And the density, I think, would be on a case-by-case, project-by-project basis, depending on what somebody was proposing.
Okay.
But, my understanding is that a friendly 40B is the developer comes to town and says, I want to meet with you folks and make sure that we're all on the same page and it's consistent with the neighborhood, and we want to do this, however, the developer still wants to make money. So there's only a certain amount of pushback, but they usually will be amenable to some suggestions about doing things appropriately.
Okay.
When they become hostile, they can just go to the state and say, we don't care what you want, we can build a 10-story
I see.
building.
Oh, well, that says it pretty succinctly. My other question was, is there a way to encourage historic properties to not be torn down? Is there a way you can encourage builders to cooperate when they're building 40Bs on properties that have old?
If they would like to be friendly developments, and we can have an open discussion with them about maintaining historically significant buildings, that could go anywhere from, gee, it's fine because it's small and it doesn't impact the rest of the development that I want to put on the site, to how much money do you want to give me to save it? Yeah,
I see. Okay.
it's all negotiation, and it depends on what position the developer is coming from as to how he feels about saving a piece of historic property. At times they will, other times they may not.
I might just add that it also depends on the flexibility of the historical commission, because it's been my very limited experience, and sometimes they aren't so flexible, which means, particularly in the context of affordable housing, it's a non-starter.
Why would that be, do you understand?
A good example is when Polly Dixon was trying to donate the property across the street from her. The historical commission at that point was saying they wanted to be historical to the extent that hand-blown lead glass should be replaced by hand-blown lead glass, that interior as well as exterior features should be preserved, and candidly, that I just didn't understand it, because Polly could have torn the thing down and would have been subject to no constraints. So I would like to, at some point, hear more from others who know more about the Historical Commission's perspective on this.
Just to throw out I've had the opposite experience when Carol Cito came with what ultimately became a friendly 40B on Boston Post Road. I can't remember the number. She worked with the Historical Commission, and they were able to get, I believe, CPA funds, am I correct? To preserve the barn.
That's very good to hear.
And another example is the one that is being proposed to put in 65 units or something like that, behind Dunkin' Donuts there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the developer of that, there's a historic house on that property, and they said, we'll preserve that house. But that was sort of to buy goodwill, I think, with the town of Weston, right? So there's negotiation.
Well, you're talking to somebody who's on the commission. So,
That's good to learn.
Yeah, so be
How
careful what
much
you
do I,
say.
how much do I know, huh?
I don't know who Polly talked to. I don't know with a hand-blown glass. I've never heard that particular requirement before. I think that since I have as a commission people willing to work with people, the preservation of things on the interior is a new one. Sometimes it's important. Well, for example, the Coburn houses, at least the one on the corner of Church Street that goes across from the barn.
Yeah.
There were some really important interior features, colonial features there that the commission thought ought to be saved if that could happen. Most of the time, there are no restrictions on the interiors at all. So,
That's
you
good
know,
to hear, Al, because I stand corrected, frankly. I think I had an incorrect perception.
Well,
No, that could be old information too.
it could be
That's-
old,
Yeah.
or it depends
maybe
on who
one
she
person
talked to. I
she's
don't know who she
spoken.
talked to. So it never came before the full commission, I can tell you that. It never came before us at all.
And the historic commission really only has the power to delay it. They can't override it.
Well,
Be that as it may, right, and one of the other examples, a recent example is Warren Avenue. Some of the buildings on Warren Avenue are historic, and we had the architects spend a lot of time with the Historic Commission trying to figure out how to adapt those buildings for affordable housing because they were of historic significance, and we're talking about closing in big overhead doors, we're talking about putting porches on buildings.
We had no requirements on the interior at all.
None on the
Any of
interior,
those
but
buildings.
but they worked with us to make sure that, you know, we take a one-family and make a two-family and put two porches on the side. And as long as they're appropriate for the period of the house, the Historic Commission had something to say about how they were configured, that was fine.
That was it.
Yeah. So there is some give and take, and I think it works pretty well right now. And I think that's also a case-by-case basis. It depends on the significance. I know the case house is a question relative to how to either adapt the case house to make it handicapped accessible, put elevators in it. And the Historic Commission has already weighed in by saying, even unofficially, there are certain interior elements that are significant that need to be saved, because that's really a special place.
Yes.
It has some very interesting elements. that are
Other
already
case
preserved.
buildings, the schoolhouse,
Yeah.
the Rand House, two candidates for affordable housing. I can guarantee you the commission's gonna have nothing to say about the interiors of those buildings.
Right.
So it's
Yeah, case by
it's
case.
not rigid at all. It's just that it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
you know, just
Which
like-
I think is an important and very positive thing.
It
Good,
is.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All set, Ron?
Yeah.
Great. No other,